Hey everybody, this is Vivek, and in this video I'm going to walk you through 5 things that I wish I had understood before I opened a company in the UAE. Now, in case you haven't watched any of my other videos, my name is Vivek and I have been running a company here in the UAE since 2014, and I have opened multiple other companies as well across free zones and in the mainland. Now, my current company is in a free zone which was established in 2017, and everything I'm going to talk about in this video is my personal experience. Some of the information might have changed just because of the rate at which laws change over here. So please do refer to an expert in case you need additional help. But with that being said, here's the first thing that I wish somebody had told me about opening a company in the UAE. The first thing is there is a difference between cancellation and expiration. Now that might seem like a bit of an odd distinction to make, but the truth is that a document does not automatically get cancelled here in this country. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I actually have a few friends who've run into trouble not making this distinction. So let's walk through an example. Let's say you have opened a company and 1 year on, your trade license is approaching its expiration date. And now for whatever reason, you don't want to continue operating this company. So you think, all right, I'm just not going to renew the license and I'll just let it expire. However, here's the problem. Just because the license has gone past its expiry date does not mean it is automatically cancelled. You have to file a request with the company to automatically cancel your license. I'm sorry, not the company, with the jurisdiction to cancel your trade license. If you don't do that, you will start accumulating fines, and those fines can be pretty hefty. So that is a very important distinction to make, and it applies to every single document really that you sign in the UAE. Things like your Emirates ID, your visa, every single thing. You have to explicitly cancel your document or else it does not expire. And if you let it expire without cancelling or without renewing it, you will start accumulating fines, and that can get pretty expensive. The second thing that I wish somebody had told me about opening a company in the UAE is communication norms. Now, communication norms in this part of the world are very different from what they are in the West. So like some of you watching, I originally came from a Western background where I lived in America for almost 10 to 12 years. So my experience and expectations coming into the UAE and opening a company was a bit different, and it's safe to say I had a bit of a culture shock. So what do I mean by this? Well, the first thing is, in this part of the world, you might get tempted into thinking that you are in the West because Dubai tends to project itself according to those standards. For example, if you go around Dubai, you'll see a lot of tall buildings. You'll see that there's a lot of freedom and there's none of that stereotypical, let's say, restrictions that people think occur in Islamic countries. Dubai is its own little world really, and as is the UAE, to be fair, because people here are extremely tolerant of other norms and cultural values. However, that doesn't extend all the way to the way people communicate over here, especially when you're communicating with the government. A few things to keep in mind is that it always pays to either call people or to visit them in person to get your work done. In the West, you might be used to simply emailing somebody and having them take it seriously and treat it as official communication. But over here in the UAE, people usually don't treat email as an official form of communication. They tend to prioritize people who speak to them either in person or who visit them physically. So if you ever have something urgent that you need to get done, make sure you do it in person. And I must stress this, this applies to company formation as well. Even if you don't intend on seeking a residence visa, never do any of these things remotely. Always visit either the jurisdiction's office or visit the office of the agent you're using, should you so choose. Visit them physically, get to know what's happening, and meet people in person, because that's the only way to get things done. Now, if you're a bit confused about what I meant by jurisdiction, I have another video out where I talk about these things. So make sure you check that out in case you're confused. The next thing I wish somebody had told me about doing business in the UAE is also a cultural norm. It is about the notion of saving face. Now, this is something that is extremely difficult for somebody with a Western background to understand. Now, what I mean by saving face is whenever you communicate with somebody and let's say there's a negative response or negative feedback that you need to offer, you need to always provide the other person the space to save face. What that means is you can't blame them directly. You should always give them some sort of an excuse that allows them to escape with some sort of a positive impression, because people take that very seriously over here. You also need to remember that when you're receiving feedback, especially from the locals or the locally Marathi citizens, they will never criticize or they will never say anything negative up front. And if you don't understand communication cues, you might be left thinking that, okay, they lied to me or something. But that's not the case. The way they offer negative feedback is they'll usually minimize it. They'll give you a ton of positive feedback, and then there'll be a little bit of negative feedback, which might not even seem that negative. This comes across as a very indirect form of communication, and well, truth be told, it is. However, it plays an important role in the culture in this country. And if you want to succeed here, especially if you're opening a mainland company and doing business with the locals, you need to understand these communication norms, and you need to also pick up on the cues, which is something you can only do once you've gone around a bit and interacted with people over here. But always keep in mind, let people save face. Do not get on them for, excessively negatively, because if you do that, your work is just not going to get done. The fourth thing that I wish somebody had told me about opening a company in the UAE is the state of the banking system. To be more precise, the state of the business banking system, which is absolutely horrendous. Now, I'm not mincing words when I say that. For somebody who's used to operating a company in a Western jurisdiction, or to be honest, any jurisdiction anywhere in the world, the UAE business banking system will seem as if it's straight out of the Stone Age. Banks operate on a completely different set of norms over here, and you need to keep that in mind when you're opening a company. One of the most bizarre things that strikes people over here is that once you have your company license and once you have all the other documents ready, if you go to a bank and ask them to open an account for your business, they most likely will reject you, because business banking over here works as not a service. It works as something that is a money producer. And the person opening the account for you, the first thing that they're thinking is, okay, am I going to earn money from this person or not? And as a result of that, if you're a smaller business or if you're still looking to establish your business, you will find that the banks impose some really ridiculous requirements on you. For example, when I first opened my business and I went to a popular bank over here to apply for a business banking account, I was told that I'll have to maintain a minimum balance of 500,000 dirhams. Now, as a startup, I really couldn't afford that minimum balance. And frankly, who maintains 1,000,000 dirhams or 500,000 worth of dirhams in their business current account as a single member LLC? So there are a lot of issues. I have another video where I talk about these issues, so make sure you check that out. But for now, just understand that business banking is its own world, and really you need to take that into account. So make sure you do your research regarding that before you open a company. The fifth and final thing that I wish somebody had told me about opening a company in this country is closing costs. Now, closing costs, if you're not aware of them, they can almost seem a scam to you. And this is actually a very popular way in which a lot of business opening agents sort of make their money, right? So the way the method works is pretty simple. It's as follows. They'll reel you in with really low priced offers for company formation. For example, you might see offers like, receive a trade license with 4 activities for 10,000 dirhams or something really ridiculous. There are many other offers such as, free e-channel, free establishment card, and so on. If you don't know what those documents are, check out another video where I've explained the important documents connected to your company. And then you can come back here and sort of understand things better. But the point is, you'll receive all these really crazy offers and they're all extremely legitimate. There's no scam over there. The problem is, once you actually open a company, you essentially become very dependent on this agent. Essentially all communications between you and the free zone or any authority really will have to go through this agent. And they might charge you money for additional services that should otherwise be free. Closing costs is a good example of this. To close a company in the UAE, you need a few documents in place, such as an audit report, which is signed off by an auditor. You need to place an advertisement in a popular newspaper just to advertise the fact that you're shutting down, and if anybody has any claims against you, they should come forward. You also need a signed off bill from a utility provider saying that you don't owe them any money. Now, getting all of these documents, it takes about 2 to 3 months worth of time. So company closing is a very involved process. You cannot just rock up one day to your jurisdiction authority and say that, listen, I want to shut down my company. It doesn't work that way. You need at least 3 months worth of time at the very least before you think about initiating company closing procedures. And even then, the agent who you used to open your company in the first place might charge you some fees. And more often than not, going back to the point I made earlier, the fees that they charge you to shut down your company are far greater than the ones they charge you to open the company. So to open the company, you might have paid 10,000, but to shut down the company, you might end up paying 15,000, for example. So it's a very important thing to keep in mind. And if you're not aware of it, you might think you're being scammed or something like that, but that's just the way the process works over here. So it's something to keep in mind. So those are 5 things that I wish somebody had told me before opening a company in this country.